Hello dear students, welcome to the first topic of this week's lecture, Human Reproductive System. I'm sure you have learned about this in the secondary school, so reviewing this topic again now should be easy peasy for you. So let's start. Our target or objectives for this lesson are: first, you should be able to describe the general functions of the reproductive systems of both male and female. Second, also able to describe spermatogenesis and oogenesis. And lastly, able to describe the roles of associated hormones. We are going to divide the lesson today into 4 parts: general functions, spermatogenesis, oogenesis, female reproductive cycles. So for this part, we are going to focus on the general functions of both male and female reproductive organs. In human, male and female has its own reproductive system. Gametes or sex cells are produced in special paired glands. Male gamete, which is sperms, are produced in the testis, while ovum, the female gamete, are produced in the ovary. Testes and ovaries are the primary sexual organs, as they produce the gametes for male and female, respectively. In order to serve their functions in human reproduction, these primary sexual organs are also associated with a system of ducts and accessory glands that facilitate transport, reception, and storage of gametes. Collectively, all of these accessory glands and ducts are known as secondary sexual organs. So these are the primary sexual organs for human. For female, it is the ovaries, while for male, the primary organ is testis. Both are responsible for the production of gametes. Alright, let's start with the male reproductive organs first. General functions for the male reproductive organs are to produce, maintain, and transport sperm and semen, to discharge sperm into the female's reproductive tract, and to produce and secrete male sex hormone. Firstly, let's look at the primary sexual organ of male, which is testis. Each male should have a pair of testes. The production of sperm and testosterone, the male sex hormone, are in the testes. To be exact, spermatogenesis, or the process of sperm production, takes place in the seminiferous tubules. These coiled tubules are located inside of the testis, and its epithelium consists of germ cells in which will further differentiate developing mature sperm. At the same time, the process will also secrete testosterone. Next, scrotum. Scrotum is a sac of skin that hangs from the body enveloping the testes. The role of scrotum is to regulate the testis temperature and also protects them. The temperature of the testis needs several degrees below the normal body temperature at about 34 degrees Celsius. The scrotum thus contracts from cold exercise or sexual stimulation, and relaxes when warm. This is why the scrotum is located outside of the body. Spermatic cord is the tubular structure that suspends the testis in the scrotum. Third one is epididymis. Epididymis is the continuation of the seminiferous tubules in the testis just now. Its function is to transport and store sperms that are produced in the testis. Sperms that are produced in the seminiferous tubules in the testes will undergo maturity as it reaches the epididymis. Remember, epididymis is part of the sperm pathway from the testis towards the penis. Moving on from epididymis are vas deferens, or also known as ductus deferens. There are two vas deferens which are on the right and left. Similar with the epididymis, vas deferens is also part of the sperm's pathway. Hence, its role is to transport mature sperm, which is from the epididymis to the urethra. This is the vas deferens, which is the continuation from the epididymis. Seminal vesicles are two small glands that store and produce majority of the fluid that makes up semen. During ejaculation, the fluid from the seminal vesicles is expelled and combined with the produced sperms, which is transported from the testis. Seminal vesicle produces a sugar-rich fluid which provides sperm with a source of energy to help them move. A clearer view of the seminal vesicles. Ejaculatory duct is formed by the union of the vas deferens with the duct of seminal vesicles. It basically delivers sperms and the seminal fluid into the urethra. During ejaculation, the fluid from the seminal vesicles is expelled into the ejaculatory duct, where it can then move on to mix with sperm and other reproductive fluids. The prostate is a walnut-sized gland located between the bladder and the penis. The prostate is just in front of the rectum. This gland secretes an alkaline fluid that can neutralizes the acidic secretions of the vagina. The urethra runs through the center of the prostate, from the bladder to the penis, letting urine flow out of the body. The prostate secretes fluid that nourishes and protects the sperm. Next is the bulbourethral gland, also known as Cowper's glands. It is a pair of P-shaped exocrine glands. These glands contribute to the final volume of semen by producing a lubricating mucus secretion. So, you can see the bulbourethral glands just below the prostate gland. Urethra is a thin fibromuscular tube that begins at the lower opening of the bladder and extends through the pelvic to the outside of the body. The urethra also connects to the vas deferens in males for the ejaculation of sperm. Here, the vas deferens joins with the seminal vesicle to form the ejaculatory duct, which passes through the prostate and empties into the urethra. The human penis is an external male intromittent organ that additionally serves as the urinal duct. In reproduction, however, it deposits semen into the female's reproductive tract. The penis encloses some portion of the urethra and is composed of two vascular erectile bodies. Okay, let's review back the sperm pathway by revising the functions of all male reproductive organs that we have learned just now.
The organs of the male reproductive system include the testes, seminiferous tubules, epididymis, ducts, urethra, and penis. The seminal vesicle and prostate and bulbourethral glands produce nourishing fluid for the sperm. The testes subdivide into lobules that contain seminiferous tubules that produce sperm. Sperm moves from the seminiferous tubules to the efferent tubules to the epididymis where they mature. The end of the epididymis forms the ductus deferens or vas deferens. This structure ascends the posterior border of the testes, penetrates the inguinal canal, enters the pelvic cavity, and loops over and around the urinary bladder. The seminal vesicles are glands at the base of the bladder that produce seminal fluid. Together with the ductus deferens, they form the ejaculatory ducts. During ejaculation, these ducts eject sperm into the male urethra, the common passageway for urine and sperm. The prostate gland surrounds the prostatic urethra just below the bladder. The fluid it secretes goes through small ducts into the prostatic urethra. The bulbourethral glands produce alkaline mucus secretions that empty into the urethra. The urethra passes through the penis carrying semen, a mixture of sperm and secretions of the glands. During ejaculation, the smooth muscle sphincter at the base of the bladder closes off to ensure that no urine is expelled and that semen does not enter the urinary bladder. Sperm moves from the seminiferous tubules to the epididymis, to the ductus deferens, to the ejaculatory duct, to the outside of the body by the urethra.
Now, let's take a look on the female reproductive organs. In general, the functions of female reproductive organs are to produce egg cells in the ovaries, to transfer egg cells to the oviducts, to prepare the uterus wall, to secrete the male sex hormone which are estrogen and progesterone. The primary sexual organ for female is ovary, which is responsible to produce eggs and the female hormones. There are two ovaries, one on each side of the uterus. From this diagram, you can see the two ovaries from the dorsal view, and this is the ovary from the lateral view. Next, the uterine tubes. These tubes are also known as fallopian tube or oviduct. It serves as passageway from the ovaries to the uterus. There are two uterine tubes. Main function of uterine tubes is as pathway. First, for the eggs to travel from the ovary. Second, as a pathway for the sperm from the uterus. And lastly, if there is fertilization, a pathway for the dividing zygote towards the uterine cavity. There are two sites in the uterine tubes that I would like to highlight in this lesson. First is the infundibulum. This is the funnel-shaped opening near the ovary to which fimbriae, the finger-like structure, are attached. Next is the ampulla. This area is the widest section of the uterine tube and where the sperm usually meets with the eggs. Fertilization usually occurs here. Moving on to the next organ, which is uterus, or commonly known as the womb. The uterus is a hollow muscular organ located in the female pelvis between the bladder and rectum. Two important parts in the uterus are the body and cervix. The body is the major hollow part of the uterus and includes the uterine cavity. On the other hand, cervix is a cylinder-shaped neck of the uterus that connects the vagina and uterus. Functions of uterus includes providing nourishment from the blood vessels to the fetus and also holding the fetus until it is mature enough for birth. Lastly, vagina, an elastic muscular canal with a soft, flexible lining. The vagina connects the uterus to the outside external genitalia. Vagina allows the discharge of the lining of the uterus during menstruation. It is also where penetration occurs during sexual intercourse and thus receiving the sperm. Baby also descends through the vagina during childbirth. Alright, that's about it for females' reproductive organs. Let's wrap up this part A with reviewing the ovum or eggs pathway in the female's reproductive tract. See you in part D.
Ovulation is the release of an egg from one of the ovaries. It often happens about midway through the menstrual cycle, although the exact timing may vary. In preparation for ovulation, the lining of the uterus or endometrium thickens. The pituitary gland in the brain stimulates one of the ovaries to release an egg. The wall of the ovarian follicle ruptures at the surface of the ovary. The egg is released. Finger-like structures called fimbriae sweep the egg into the neighboring fallopian tube. The egg travels through the fallopian tube, propelled in part by contractions in the fallopian tube walls. Here in the fallopian tube, the egg may be fertilized by a sperm. If the egg is fertilized, the egg and sperm unite to form a one-celled entity called a zygote. As the zygote travels down the fallopian tube toward the uterus, it begins dividing rapidly to form a cluster of cells resembling a tiny raspberry. When the zygote reaches the uterus, it implants in the lining of the uterus, and pregnancy begins. If the egg isn't fertilized, it's simply reabsorbed by the body, perhaps before it even reaches the uterus. About 2 weeks later, the lining of the uterus sheds through the vagina. This is known as menstruation.